Howdy friends. So, in World of Warcraft Classic, hunter pets might seem very simple on the surface, but once you get down to the nitty gritty, you'll find there's a very complex system at play. So, I want to give some basics about how pets work, the different kinds of pets available, and hopefully help you choose what pets are best for your hunter. To start off simple, pets are very different in Classic than they are in Retail. They fight beside the hunter as a separate character with their own health and own stats. But unlike Retail, hunters don't start off with their pets, but instead must wait until level 10 before they gain access to a quest chain that requires them to tame 3 various beasts around the hunter's respective starting areas. These quests are all available from the hunter trainers in Bloodhoof Village, Dolinar, Karnos, and Razor Hill, depending on the race of the hunter. After taming the 3 beasts and completing the quest, the hunter must travel to their respective racial capital, where another hunter trainer will give them all of the pet taming and controlling abilities. Only then can they tame their first pet. Pets gain loyalty to their hunter from 2 ways: time spent while their pet is fed, and by gaining XP. It's important to note that a pet needs both of these to gain loyalty levels, not just one. But the biggest contributor is just time spent, so you don't actively need to do much aside from leveling and keeping them fed to gain loyalty. Loyalty levels, along with experience levels, are how pets gain training points. I'll go into more detail later on what training points are and what they do. In order to maintain a pet, hunters must feed their pets constantly, especially at the rebellious and unruly loyalty stages. Now, I really can't understate how hangry your pet will be right after you tame it, and it requires constant feeding until it's spent some time with you. Different pet families are able to eat different types of food. For example, boars and bears can eat almost everything, while raptors and wolves eat meat exclusively. Knowing your pet food groups is crucial before taming, as you'll need to immediately feed a pet after taming them. Failing to feed that pet will also result in them running away and being lost forever, so keep that food handy. But as your pets gain loyalty, they'll require a lot less food to keep happy. Pets also do increase damage depending on their happiness levels. With an unhappy pet, you're only doing 75% of their base damage, with normal pets doing 100% and happy pets doing 125% of normal damage. Ideally, your pet should be happy all the time. You can know your pet's happiness level by the indicator next to their portrait. Dying or being dismissed decreases a pet's happiness, while feeding them increases happiness. Only one pet can be active at a time, but hunters can purchase stable slots if they want the option to switch out other pets. It's recommended to have more than one, but I'll discuss why later in the video. Generally, a pet's stats, abilities, and diet are based on the family it belongs to. However, there are exceptions to this rule here and there. For example, some cats have different attack speeds than others, and both cats and wolves can learn Dash, but only wolves can learn Furious Howl. These exceptions are scattered all throughout the different families, and for the sake of time, I can't go over every pet family and compare their stats. However, I will be highlighting some key families, like cats, wolves, bears, etc. So if I don't highlight a family you want to know information about, follow the link below to a chart containing all the information. Every pet has either claw, bite, or both. And all pets also have access to Growl and Cower, as well as all the passive abilities that can be learned from a pet trainer. Some of these passive abilities are natural armor, and all the spell type resistances, like shadow and fire resistance. Because of Growl, a pet's ability to generate threat doesn't directly correlate with their damage, so when looking for a good pet for tanking, survivability should be prioritized over damage output. It's also important to note that all the pet trainer abilities can't be trained at the same time. A pet only has so many training points, so the hunter has to prioritize which passive points to give. Unlike player talent trees, pet talent trees are very inexpensive to reset, so often you'll want to change which resistances your pet has, depending on any upcoming dungeons or just what you're doing. The pet family specific abilities, however, don't use training points, and instead are restricted to certain families. To unlock higher rank abilities, the hunter has to train beasts in the world that have these specific abilities. Once trained, the hunter permanently has access to that ability and can teach it to all viable pets. For example, if a hunter tames an owl and gets Screech rank 1, the hunter will permanently have access to that ability, even if they release the owl they learned it from. The hunter can then teach the ability to, say, a bat. In addition to your pet's auto attacks, they can use either bite, claw, or both as a focus dump. At first glance, bite and claw might seem pretty similar. But after running a few tests with a bear using bite and claw, I've actually determined that bite is the superior of the two, with the data showing my findings here. This has actually surprised me because bite, along with costing 10 more focus, has a 10-second cooldown, making it less frequently used. But as the data shows, even with its high focus and built-in cooldown, bite's great damage makes it a better move in most situations. I also found that, while using bite, my pet never ran out of focus. Even when Growl was introduced, my pet's focus never dropped to 0, meaning using bite and Growl can be used together without sacrificing DPS. Because of this, I recommend using Bite over Claw when possible, especially when Growl or Cower are active. Claw does have one advantage in that it does more damage briefly before your pet runs out of focus. Then your pet's damage drops quite a bit as it tries to regenerate more. Introduce Growl to the moveset, and your pet loses even more DPS as it tries to keep up with the focus demand of both abilities. So if you're fighting a target and you want to burst it down quickly, leave Bite on auto attack, and save Claws and activate when you want your pet to quickly dump their focus on the target as damage. If you have a pet like an Owl that can only learn Claw, then just leave it on auto attack. The damage difference isn't really enough to stress over. I've divided the pets into 3 useful categories: DPS, tanking, and utility. These categories are only meant to simplify what types of pets are available, and it's important to note that these categories are based on just my own definitions and priorities, and these groups don't actually exist in the game. So there are no tanking or DPS pets, but only pets with stats and abilities that I think make them better for those roles. All pet families perform in various ways, and it's really up to the hunter to determine the best way to utilize that pet. An example of what I mean by this is like the Boar's Charge ability. This ability closes the gap between the boar and the target while rooting the target in place. I believe this makes the boar a tanking pet. However, I can see it argued that the boar is a utility pet, as it's the only pet family that has a rooting ability. Because of that, some pets will appear in more than one category based on their possible uses. Now I want to go over attack speed and what it means for pets. So the default attack speed of a pet is 2 seconds between each basic attack, but some beasts have higher than average attack speed. And these attack speeds vary within some pet families, like especially cats, who generally have faster attacks. It should be noted though that a faster attack does not mean more damage. All members of a pet family have the same DPS, but it's the speed of their attacks that vary, not their overall damage. It's a common misconception that faster attack speed is always better, though I will say in most cases it is. More attacks means more chance to interrupt enemy spellcasting. Also more attacks means more opportunities for abilities like Frenzy in the Beast Mastery tree, which activates after your pet gets a critical hit. A faster attack speed means more uptime for this ability, though this same principle can work as a negative against targets that benefit from being critically hit, like a Shaman's Eye of the Storm ability. When a Shaman with this talent is critically hit, they become immune to interruptions for 6 seconds. So often, they want to be critically hit, so a pet with the highest attack speed is kind of going to ensure that this ability is frequently active, benefiting your target. And many other classes have abilities that activate when critically hit as well. So it's not always best to hit faster, but oftentimes the pros outweigh the cons, especially in PvP. Starting off is the DPS pets, and that brings us to cats. Cats are one of the most unique pets in the game. They have an array of abilities that allow them to be one of the best pet choices in DPS and utility categories. I'll discuss their utility strengths later in the video, but for now I want to focus on their pure DPS output. Cats, tied with raptors, produce the highest raw DPS of any pets in the game, boasting a plus 10% to their damage. They're one of the best choices for a hunter looking to maximize their DPS output in PvP or PvE. They have average armor, and their health is a little below average. Their abilities are Claw, Bite, Dash, and Prowl, and their diet's a little restrictive with just fish and meat. There are several kinds of unique cats in the game, much more than I have listed here, but these are just some key ones you might want to consider. However, the most sought after unique cat is definitely the famous Broken Tooth. He's a rare cat that has an unsurpassed attack speed of 1.0, making him a very sought after pet for PvP. Every hunter has their eye on him. That and his rare spawn rate make him extremely difficult to tame. But if you do wish to go after this legendary cat, he can be found in the Northern Badlands at level 37. Here's his 3 spawn locations on the map. Good luck! Up next, Wind Serpents. Wind Serpents are pets that are capable of dealing large amounts of damage without sacrificing too much for defense. But what really makes the Sky Lizard stand out is its Lightning Breath ability, which is the highest source of spell damage a pet's able to deal, meaning this pet has a lot of damage that ignores armor. It's also the only pet with a true ranged ability, being able to shoot Lightning Breath up to 20 yards with no cooldowns aside for the need to use Focus. It really complements its ranged hunter companion. The rank 6 of Lightning Breath is only available once Zul'Gurub releases, as the Wind Serpents within the raid are where you learn it. One word of caution though, there are a large variety of Wind Serpents that are said to have lower than average stats, so do a little research before picking one up, but if you want to play it safe and avoid the chance of taming one like that, just be sure to tame one of the regular elites within Wailing Caverns or Zul'Gurub. You can get one with Lightning Breath rank 2 as low as level 15. My source for this will be linked below. Next we have the Raptors. One of the coolest looking pets in my opinion. Raptors tie with cats for pure DPS output, and they enjoy a 10% increase to their damage. Sadly, they lack any of the utilities of cats with no access to dash or prow, but when it comes to just pure damage, they are beat by nobody. They have good armor, but really lack health, making them a poor choice for tanking. Their diet is exclusively meat, and they have no unique models with differing stats. Last but not least of the DPS pets are wolves. So wolves are an incredibly versatile pet, with a unique way of being a high DPS pet as well. See, while they lack the raw damage of cats, owls, and raptors, they make up for it with their Furious Howl ability. This ability effectively gives the wolf and anyone in the group 45 to 57 additional melee damage every 10 seconds. So, with a group of possibly 4 melee players, this pet easily out DPSs all other pets, and it does it without sacrificing any defenses. It also has access to dash, and if you tame the right one, they have the second highest attack speed in the game, behind bats and cats, making wolves one of the most well-balanced pets available, and certainly my DPS of choice. They have average damage, high armor, and average health. Their abilities are dash, bite, and Furious Howl, and their diet is exclusively meat. There's also one rare wolf called Lupos that is tied with Broken Tooth as one of the most coveted pets in the game. See, what makes Lupos so unique is that he allegedly is able to deal shadow damage instead of a wolf's regular melee damage, meaning his attacks aren't affected by the target's armor. However, this unique trait was seen as a bug by Blizzard and removed after patch 1.9. So I can't say for certain if this is going to even be in Classic WoW, but if he does, he's going to be an incredibly difficult pet to tame due to his low and unpredictable spawn rates. So if you really want him, you're going to be competing with other hunters. For what it's worth, he does drop a back piece called Hide of Lupos. This has decent stats, just don't let a hunter see you wearing it. There's also Snarler, a wolf that spawns in Feralus that is said to have a base resistance of 100 in every magic category. This was also seen as a bug by Blizzard and fixed in patch 1.3, so it's unclear if his stats will be fixed in Classic. Some other DPS contenders include the Spider and the Owl, both of which have a fair amount of DPS. In the next category are the tanking pets. These are pets that have high survivability, and first on the list is the bear family. So bears have the highest health pools of any pet in Classic. They are widely available, and while they don't have any unique movesets, they're just a good all-around tanking pet. Also, because of their high health pool, they excel at tanking mobs that deal magic damage that would otherwise ignore armor. However, since most mobs in the game deal physical damage, bears are not my most recommended tank pets, but they're an excellent choice, especially at levels 10 through 30. Bears have minus 9% on their damage, which is very low. They have 5% additional armor and 8% additional health, which is the highest in the game. Their abilities are exclusively claw and bite, and their diet is bread, cheese, fruit, fungus, and meat. There is one unique bear model with a lower than average attack speed. This is the young forest bear, found between levels 8 and 9 in the Elwyn Forest. They have a 2.5 second attack speed, which is much slower than average, so if you want a slower pet for the reasons I mentioned earlier, you do have that option. Next of the tanking pets is the beloved boar. Now boars are, and always have been, my preferred leveling pet. They have some of the highest armor and health of any pets, and what they lack in damage, they make up in their utility. So much so that I could see them argued as utility pets first and tanks second. However, I'll discuss their utility values later. What makes them such fantastic tanks is really their charge ability, which allows them to connect with targets instantly and secure aggro before the mob's able to run into the hunter's dead range. While leveling a hunter, you'll almost always deal damage to your target first and take aggro while your melee pet attempts to catch the target. The boar eliminates this problem by charging the target instantly after you attack, rooting it in place, and taking aggro while you fire from afar. That's why I recommend getting a boar as your first pet, as they're probably the best all-around tank available. There are also plague boars available at level 60 in the Eastern Plaguelands, so even if you don't use a boar as a leveling pet, you can still grab one as a secondary pet that you can use for farming materials in the world. Following the boar are the somehow underrated carrion birds. These birds aren't commonly used as tanking pets, or frankly as pets at all, and that surprises me since they have decent armor and much higher damage than a boar or a bear. By also having access to Screech, they can effectively AoE targets and reduce their melee attack power. When you combine that with their ability to learn Dive, which increases their movement speed, they essentially become the jack-of-all-trades tank, and I'm surprised few people actually use them in the early levels. If you do tame one, avoid the Fire Rock in Tyrannus, as they're rumored to have lower than average stats. These feathered tanks have no additional damage, 5% additional armor, which is rather high, and 0 additional health. Their abilities are Claw, Bite, Dive, and Screech, and their diet is fish and meat. Next are the absolute units, the gorillas. Gorillas excel as the AoE pet tanks. Their Thunderstomp ability is exclusive to the gorilla family and does an AoE attack that causes additional threat. Also, Thunderstomp only costs 20 focus and has a 7-second cooldown, so your pet can use it often to generate that extra bit of threat. Because of this, gorillas are the best pets for tanking multiple targets and can really improve your questing speed even at higher levels. Unfortunately, the lowest level gorilla can't be tamed until level 32 within Stranglethorn Vale, so you can't grab one of these as a starter pet. They have 2% additional damage, 0 additional armor, and 4% additional health, which is very high. Their abilities are Bite and the beloved Thunderstomp, and their diet is fruit and fungus. Following the gorillas are the turtles. Now the turtle is the ultimate min-maxer's pet. They overkill in the armor category with a whopping 13% additional armor. What makes this so valuable is that mobs mostly deal physical damage, which will be greatly mitigated by a turtle's natural armor. But if that isn't enough, they also have Shell Shield, which reduces damage by an incredible 50% for 12 seconds. It does reduce their attack speed by a drastic amount, but as I said before, a pet's damage output isn't crucial for their ability to hold aggro. This is the tanking pet I recommend for anyone not leveling his Beast Mastery, as it has incredible survival potential, even without the defensive boosts found in the Beast Mastery tree. The turtle's damage is a staggering negative 10%, which is the lowest in the game, tied with boars, but they make up for that with a 13% additional armor, as I mentioned before, which is the highest in the game. They have no health bonuses. Their abilities are Bite and Shell Shield. Their diet is fish, fruit, and fungus. Some other pets you can consider for tanking are the crab and crocolisk for their armor, as well as the scorpid, who deals unique nature damage in the form of stacking dots. More on them later though. The final category is the utility pets. These are pets with situational abilities that are of value, and to start off, we have the boar. Now the boar's stats are the same as before, but I'll share them again on screen. As I mentioned before, the reason the boar is considered a tank as well as a utility pet is because their ability to charge. Now it may only be for 1 second, but on many occasions, I've been able to successfully land an aim shot on a target just because I had that 1 extra second of range on them. It's also very valuable when you combine it with the Intimidate ability in the Beast Mastery tree, which stuns the target for 3 seconds on top of the 1 second root given by the boar. Also, that 1 second root can almost guarantee you land any AoE abilities, such as an Iron Grenade stun. As the only pet in the game with any kind of root, a boar's value can't be understated. Next are the cats again. And let me tell you, cats are one of the best pets available, not just because of their damage, but also because of their unique prowl ability. This ability gives them stealth and a 20% attack bonus to their next attack. There's no limit for how many uses there are for this in the game, from guarding the flag in Warsong Gulch, to avoiding pulling mobs in a dungeon, to having fun with just Eyes of the Beast and controlling your little mini rogue. In addition, if you play a Night Elf, Prowl goes perfect with their Shadow Meld racial ability. With it, both Hunter and Cat can hide in stealth, and when the moment is right, the Hunter can send their Cat in to engage the target right as the Hunter opens fire on an unsuspecting target. Trust me, as a Horde player, I am both angry and jealous that Night Elves get this option. A cat is a good pet for any Hunter race. Night Elves just get that little bit extra. Our final utility pet is the Scorpid. Now Scorpids are unique pets because of their ability to deal damage in the form of nature damage over time. This ability stacks, and along with the damage, this dot is great for when you want to apply Viper Sting to a target, which drains their mana. Now normally some classes are able to remove the poison of Viper Sting before it can drain them, but when combined with the Scorpid poison, the person dispelling the buff would have to dispel several layers of poison before they could get to the Viper Sting, possibly using more mana than the Sting would even drain. So when fighting healers, it's smart to consider a Scorpid. Scorpids do low damage with -6%, but they have very high armor with +10% and average health. Their abilities are Claw, Scorpid Poison, and their diet is exclusively meat. The other utility contender is the Bat, which has high damage, is able to do AoE damage in the form of Screech, and if you tame the right one, some have an attack speed of a 1.0, which is the highest in the game. And finally, I want to go over some tips and tricks for pets. So I highly recommend utilizing a pet that can fill one or more categories that I've mentioned above. You'll have to buy 2 stable slots first, and they're quite expensive in the early game, so just worry about getting your 40% mount first, then worry about buying extra slots. Pets do level with you and have a quarter of your XP bar, but depending on how you level, they can often fall behind because they don't benefit from rested or quest XP. Also, they can't gain XP until you're a higher level than them. I have found that my pet is usually half a level behind. Not too bad, but if you're trying to juggle more than one pet, you'll find it a chore to keep them near your level. So it's best to pick one pet to level to 60, then find 2 other pets to add in. But if you want to take a simple route and only worry about a single pet, just grab a wolf. They're good at everything. Just remember, try to keep anything you tame 1 or 2 levels below you. Any more than that, and you're going to find it more of a liability to bring that pet around than an asset. For taming rare beast, your best bet is to find their possible spawn points and know their spawn times. So if you ever find the rare beast and somebody else has tamed or killed them, you can rejoice because that means you know exactly when they're going to spawn again. Set a timer and come back. The best time to search is obviously when the server is less active, so if you're willing to play at 2 AM server time, you're going to have better odds. In this video, I didn't go over hyenas or tail striders just because they don't really excel at any role. However, if you really want one, they're more aligned to be defensive pets and fit more for leveling. Also, I want to mention a little tip. Pets that eat bread are much more convenient because they can eat conjure food, which is usually handed out during raids, so that's just something to consider. As a disclaimer too, I tried to make sure all of the information I have in this video is relevant for the upcoming classic servers, but it's possible that some of this info, especially regarding the attack speeds of pets, can vary, and a lot of misinformation has come from private servers. It should be the same in classic though, but just keep it with a little bit of grain of salt that some of this is susceptible to change. Well, I hope this guide helps you in deciding what pet you want to use in Classic WoW. There's a huge variety of pets, and a perfect fit for whatever playstyle you have. But other than that, I thank you for your time, and I will see you guys next time.